Hello folks. So, just want to clear a few things up here for certain people that don't seem to be appreciating that since the end of December last year I've been rather focused to something other than putting out videos. Okay, that means at that particular time I've been helping myself in relation to the issues I've put before me. Now, what I want to explain is this. If you send me an email, I will always respond. If you've left me a phone number in your email, I'll give you a ring. I'll only ring once. If there's no answer, I'm not going to be ringing again. Okay? And that does happen quite often. Generally though, if it's just an email, I will answer you. Okay? Now, I do get some emails sometimes that are rather, they appear desperate, but the attitude of the email tells me the story. And if you're getting a bad response or a response you're not happy with, then you need to go and check your initial email that you sent to me. Because if you're bringing up bad vibes, you're not going to get any play out of me, all right? It doesn't matter who you might think I am. I'm just a geezer. I'm a man and I'm a male. I'm not putting up with no shit. I didn't put up with shit for my 4 children, and I'm not putting up with shit for any other, okay? So, that said, don't be, if you want to send me an email, send me an email. If I can draw your attention to certain things, I will do so. Now, I just want to get this across as well, because it seems to be getting a little bit worse with some of these pathetic emails that I'm getting and then crybabying. And I've seen it now spreading onto the comments. So, here it goes. There are 2 forms of help. All right? As I see it. Now, one is the help that we associate with a child. A child, when it needs help, needs you to do everything for it. That's what a child needs. That's a child's version of help. But when you reach a certain age, you can't expect that help. Or you can expect that help off your mother and maybe your family. But you're not going to get that kind of help from total strangers, okay? You can't then therefore demand that that stranger does exactly as you want it in the way that you want it, all right? Now, the second help, and this is the help that I'm more than happy to offer, is for thinking, reasonable men and women who have taken responsibility for their own lives and are very happy for me to draw attention to certain things, certain issues, certain realities in relation to legal system or the law. Okay, that's help. That's help from the grown-up perspective. That's the help I'm prepared to offer for people. And I've made it clear many times in these videos that it's not as easy as one would think for somebody else to jump on and do something for you unless you're paying attention and putting in, learning what you need to learn. Because ultimately, whatever you're learning, you're going to have to apply. I've been doing this a long time. A very, very long time. And I've come to understand and learn those facts the hard way in some cases. Now, in the last 12 months, maybe since I started doing these videos, then I've had a different experience, especially from others who have cracked certain codes and have gone out their way to help people. And they've gone out their way to help people, I'm talking. We're not talking about for money. We're talking about people that have gone out their way to help people. Okay? So they've spent time with them. Maybe a month, maybe 2 months. And then as it gets to the appointed issue to be dealt with, then they tend to be going off somewhere else. Either, common law courts, or either here. Well, okay, that is fine. But what you need to understand is this. If you're asking somebody for help, you're asking them because you've seen what they're offering as valuable to you and your issue. If you want that person to help you and you believe that they can, then you have to stick with that. You can't start introducing other formats into what it is you're trying to accomplish. Because you've got then 2 formats operating against each other. That's not going to work in any court, but it's not going to work for the guy or female that's helped you for X amount of time, if all of a sudden you're off somewhere else and then still expecting that person to come to court with you, you know, you need to grow up a little bit there, people, okay? Now, I'm not telling you who's right and who's wrong, okay? That's not what I'm here to do. On my videos, I am presenting my findings. In the initial videos, I was basically presenting the conclusion of what I'd learned and come to up to 2014. And then perhaps a couple of years beyond, when I addressed the grammar in relation to title, not having surname. So I've been presenting these videos early on, trying to offer to you out there who would listen what I've learned, what I've found, what I've used or what I haven't used, okay? I'm not here to be your mother or your father, okay? You see, I'm always happy to help. It doesn't matter, as long as if I'm helping you, you're actually trying, you know? I'm not wasting my time if all of a sudden you're going to run off somewhere else. That's fine. Now, this doesn't happen to me as a general rule, I have to say. Because I'm looking for character if somebody comes to me for help. And if I don't see the character I need to see in that person or in that male, female, whatever, I'm not gonna go down the path. Because if I can't see in a character balls, a capacity to understand what's being presented, yet the issues being drawn to their attention, then it's a waste of time. It's a waste of my time and it's a waste of their time also. So, as I've said, in this last couple of years, it's the experiences of others that have sort of bolstered my past understanding that, you know, you can only help people that are prepared to help themselves. Okay? Now, in this recent thing that I'm involved in, I've had to change completely the way that I approach these issues, because what I'm doing now is far superior than anything I'd ever done before. Okay? So now I'm at a point where I'm shifting again in relation to how I am looking at this state of affairs, basically. So right now, at this particular moment, I'm pupil. Okay? I'm pupil, therefore I'm not going to teach because I haven't understood what I'm learning fully yet. Alright? But just in relation to your emails, if you're asking for the help a child would help, don't send me any emails. Do not send me any emails. And more to the point, if you're going to be attitude on your emails, be lucky if I don't give the attitude back, because I can quickly flip to being as malicious and as unsavoury as you. Do you understand that? Now, if you're having trouble in understanding what I'm saying, you need to check yourself. Okay, when it comes to the title, I've made it very clear. Previous to 1969, there is a very good chance that your original title does not have surname. However, this again depends on how your parents filled it out. Your original title, you can only receive a copy of the original. They can't invent things. They can't change things. You're not asking for the birth certificate. You're asking for the entry of birth. Yeah, that's what you're asking for. Or a live birth, whatever terminology is being used in whichever nation you're in. You've got to hit that terminology. So many people are asking me, I've put it out, told them what to do, because it's very simple when you apply. You apply, but you don't ask for a copy of your birth certificate. If you ask for a copy of your birth certificate, you dumbass, they're going to give you a copy of your fucking birth certificate with surname. You see, you need to listen to the words that are being presented to you so that you understand what's already been given, not crying your eyeballs out because you've done it wrong and then blaming the source of the information. You see, what you are there is a child, a little child. You can't be asked to think for yourself. That tells anybody that you certainly can't be asked to put anything into practice that you might be offered or drawn your attention drawn to. You see what I'm saying? You're determining the relationships you have with people if you're asking for something. You're determining your question as to what you get back by your attitude, by your capacity in the words that you're using. Just in the words that people use when they request tells me where they're at. You with me? You've got to be close to what I'm trying to show for me to be able to communicate. If you're way down at the bottom end, just learning, you need to learn first. It's not just jumping up here and saying that's it. Because if, let's say, you got what you wanted, you wouldn't have a clue what to do with it. And you wouldn't have a clue what to do with it because you wouldn't be prepared to learn it yourself. Yeah, and that's a problem that people are having. They are actually helping people. They're helping you and then you're screwing it. You're doing it all by yourself or shitting yourself at the last minute. And then, it would appear, blaming the one that gave you a bit of a lift. So, I just wanted to put that forward because if these emails start getting more ridiculous, I'll cancel out the communication via email for people on the internet. It's as simple as that. I'm not listening to children talk shit and then talk shit again because they haven't understood what I've said. See? So it's very simple, and I've said it before. You don't want a copy of your birth certificate unless you want a copy of your birth certificate, which will be an exact copy of your birth certificate. Yeah. If you're pre-1969, there is a very good chance that your certified copy of an entry of birth will not have a surname. Okay? If that exists, you can get it. But again, it depends how your parents, whichever parent registered you, filled it out. Okay? It depends entirely upon that fact. So that's in relation to title. Nothing I've said is less of any value than I've presented. It has absolute value because there's no surname. However, it's not the end of the world if you don't achieve that. Then you have to understand your relationship to your title, the title. Okay, so that's you. That's your premise for study. Yeah. So when you're asking for your title pre-69, you're asking for a certified copy of the entry of birth. You're not asking for the birth certificate. All right. Now, if the idiot that's been sending me emails that I don't like, if you're watching this, son, get that in your fucking head, all right? And don't ever contact me again, because I am not interested in your piffle or your pish. Do you understand me? I'm not interested. You go away and be a little boy, little girl, whoever the fuck you are, with your friends. Don't start poking your shit into my world, all right? 2 forms of help. What children need, which I finished many years ago. All my children are grown up, all right? The help I'm offering is to draw your attention to that you may study yourself. I'm still there, open as an email if you want to check things, run things by me, etc. That's fine. But I cannot do it for you because I can't do it for you. And let me give you an example. As much as I've accumulated in these years, with what I'm doing now, I am at the beginning. I'm at the beginning in everything, in presentation, in language, the lot. So I'm now pupil. So I can't help anybody right now with what I'm actually doing in relation to this court case because I have to fully absorb and understand what it is I'm doing before I'll even try to show it to others. Because if it's a failure, I don't want to be pulling people into failure. What we all need to be doing is pulling together and studying. As somebody brings something to the table, study it, learn it, see it, okay? See it for what it is. And then you can decide whether you want to continue communications with that outlet. All right. So I'm not going to go through this again, but have it known, if you send me an email, I will answer it. If you send me an email with a phone number on, I will ring it. Once only. If you don't answer the phone, I'm not going to be ringing again. You'd have to re-communicate and make it clear you want to touch base with email first. So you're in control there. So if you're thinking I'm ignoring you, and you sent a phone number, I've rung you. But you didn't answer. Alright. And I don't leave answer messages either. Okay? That's not the way I work. And the reasons for that are many and proven good strategy. Alright? For me. Because you remember this, people, I have to protect myself at all times. And the more open you become to the outside world, you're giving the shitheads inside an input into your world as well. And you've got to be very careful who you're speaking to, because this is internet. This is communication by typing. It's not communication by looking into each other's eyeballs, is it? Because that's where you can see who the monster is that you're looking at. Or not. Right, so that's the end of that little shindig. And now what I want to do is just further the last video in relation to constabulary, and the fact that we now know that Lancashire Constabulary is working with NICE Limited, an Israeli intelligence operation, a lot bigger than we might think at this stage, because obviously it's just a part of the bigger network. But basically, what we're seeing now is Freemasonry showing itself shining in the fact that all its members are pulling together this Noahide system, which is virtual, so that means no more courts in England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, right? It means no more courts. It's all going to be done on the internet. There's no case files. Are we getting it? Are you starting to see the picture? So now, let's have a look at the Chief Constable, Lancashire Constabulary. Right, let's have a look at a few details. The salary. So this is, we're paying this office $161,800 per annum. And relocation and benefits package. Okay, so that's what holding office of Chief Constable in Lancashire is being paid. Okay, that's a huge amount. That's more than MPs. Okay, think of it like this. That Mason is getting more than your MP. Right? Well, that's because that's what these men demand to implement their own system, the Noahide system. 32nd degree Scottish Rite, that's when you are enlightened as to serving the Jesuits, that the G is the Superior General. Okay, so when you look at this face here on this new Chief Constable about to take up the position in Lancashire, a guy called Chris Rowley, I want you to look at his face. Just have a look at that face, because I've seen this face a million times. That's a face of deceit, of deception, and a self-belief that it's way, way over you. You are beneath him. You are there to be told what to do by him. Now, it's a 5-year fixed-term appointment, is the Chief Constable. As Lancashire's Police and Crime Commissioner, I am now inviting applications for post of Chief Constable for suitably qualified, experienced senior police officer, this high profile and demanding position. So this is the Police and Crime Commissioner. Who is this joker? Corporate. It's got nothing to do with the realm, nothing to do with the nation, okay? This is a corporate position now telling you that he is going to allocate £161,800 with relocation and benefits package to a person who's going to do what he's told. So who are these police crime commissioners? Stakeholder men. Okay, that's what they are. They are stakeholder committee, stakeholder community men or women. Huh? I'm looking for a top-level strategic leader who will establish a shared vision. A shared vision with whom? Is it shared vision with law? No, it's a shared vision with the Police and Crime Commissioner. Okay. Who's called Clive Grunshaw, by the way. That's got to be another, either Masonic or a Jesuit, or any other of the Catholic Secret Society Night Orders. It can be of any. Opus Dei, yeah, any of them that they want. Eastern Star for the females, blah de blah. This is Lancashire is a county of diverse communities, represented across a varied mix of urban and rural areas. Now again, diverse communities. He's not talking about your community. He's talking about the diversity of the stakeholder communities, because of course now there's Johnny foreigners everywhere. And as I've explained in some of my previous videos, the Pakistani mind, Kashmiri mind, they are completely and utterly programmed to do what the police tell them. And I've explained why. If you are born over here as a Pakistani or a Kashmiri, if your ancestry does not have solid, and I mean solid ties to the police in Pakistan, you can't go over there. Because they hate you, because you're British. Not English, because you're British. British is the hated imperial name, not England. British, okay? So that's your entire baby boomer generation, because they are British. They have no concept of what England is, and Chris Rowley is a baby boomer, okay? So that's what we've got going on here. They're the ones that have succumbed to the secret societies to move them out of the nation and into a foreign entity, the Noahide system. Yeah, because they believe it's the Jews that are running it. It's the Jesuits that are running it. The Jews have been co-opted since Catherine the Great annihilated Khazaria and stuck them all in the pogroms, who were then released from 1888 to 1914 across America, Europe, and England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, okay? This is what's going on. This system that they're shifting us into with this face here, Chris Rowley and Clive Grunshaw. This is your Masonic, high-powered, high-level faces working for the Holy See with a Protestant persona, i.e. we are English police. No, these are treasonous usurpers who their societies have put in these positions of Chief Constable. Now they're using the term constable, again, full of shit, because they're operating under Clive Grimshaw, Police and Crime Commissioner. They're telling you, the baby boomers have lost all sense of language, grammar, law, what's not law, nation, how to nurture the next generation, because they started they brought in the contraception, they brought in the abortion, they brought in the idea that divorce is great, fuck the children, it's all about me. Now, that's just got worse because that's been passed on to the next generations. Everything's about me. Am I happy in my position? Is anybody inflicting any kind of power? Yet you're missing the fact that all the wankers pushing power against you are outside your family. It's the state. Now fully peopled by the Masonic, Jesuit, evangelical creature organisations. The poverty was handed over to the evangelicals about 2008 when they brought out the Trussell Trust, which is subservient to the Dulverton Trust. Okay, did these many years ago. It caused uproar when I released the Trussell Trust. About showing where it's going. Because they had only been told what they were meant to be told. I showed these people where it was going. But as the years went on, the cries against it went less and less because people could start to see that that's where it was moving. They're going to take your children off you. This man, Chris Rowley, is the choice. This face here is no hide. You're being judged by this man on behalf of Israel, the Holy See. Because you're Christians and not Jews, even though the Jews are at a much lower level than the actual priesthood at the top there. Yeah, this is the families that run the Holy See. This could trace back to Zoroastrianism. Okay, but it's a mix of many things, because the Temple of Solomon was the temple of abominations. He brought in all the demons, all the goddesses, all the wretches, the shits, the baggots, everything. He did everything in opposition to the ancient lines, doing everything they could to not breed with the dirtied bloodlines that had bred with the Nephilim way back pre-flood and post-flood. That set it up patriarchal, because no women could be trusted to not have been sired or to sire Nephilim offspring. That's why it went patriarchal. The females had cocked it up, couldn't be trusted because there were that many of them around that had done the bit with the unclean. They had to try and set that into some kind of situation where they could set up systems that weren't undermined immediately by these female bloodlines. That's important that you understand. Today, that's happened. 1,000 years they've had under Satan's time to do this, and they've done it well. And now we've got spawned these faces, yeah, running your law. Now that goes against all the conventions of occupation, because they cannot prevent your right to your law. But if they can slowly do it, they can class what were happening 10 years ago as the precedent law that they're talking about. No, England is built on ancient law, way before King Alfred. You know, way before. You know, this place were a hell of a place even when the Roman Republic was on. The Roman bloodlines, the elites in Europe, sent the children here to be educated by the Druids. It was when the Druids didn't go along with the Disneyland Jesus that they were annihilated. Yeah. Why would they go along with the Disneyland Jesus when, according to their own law, Jesus was a white guy from Ireland that they sent over there to preach this reintroduction of the original law that had got lost, which is shown to us in the Torah through following and expanding the Mosaic law. Yeah, I've said it before, 10 laws went in the box, and those were the laws set by God for man. Everything else. So if you're running around on a theology, for instance, that says you can deceive, okay, then you need to know you're not operating according to the 10 laws in the box, the only laws between God and man. Through the Mosaic law, you've come to an idea that it's all right to deceive. Well, it's okay if that's what you want to be, but you need to understand that, and that alone takes you off the 10 Commandments, because it's forbidden. God says it's forbidden to be and live that way. So no matter how you've come to that conclusion now in yourself, it's off the mark. Okay? And that's, again, things that need to be understood by people. If you're claiming to be operating for the forces in creation as opposed to your own will, all right, and what's better for your little ass. So that's your Chief Constable has been sent out for a new one. That was 7th of December 2020. And they've chosen a guy called Chris Rowley, who's currently Deputy Chief Constable of Humberside Police. But he was also very involved in Yorkshire Police. Now that Yorkshire Police have been the melting pot for all this evil shit, and then being pressed against the public for a very long time. The Yorkshire guys have had a lot of problems for a long time because of the Yorkshire Force. And they're about to shove this man, who's expert in shitting all that up, into Lancashire. Now, I made a call to Lancashire headquarters the other day, and I can assure you the answer that I were getting when I asked, is Andy Rhodes still in his position? You could tell nobody in Lancashire Constabulary wants this new fella anywhere near him. But that's just my opinion. from the spoken word I got as an energy from that short, brief conversation. Okay, so next. Okay, so it says, Chief, this is Clive Grunshaw again, bigging it up on the Chief Constable of Lancashire, and he says role profile. It says job purpose. So get this. To work with the Police and Crime Commissioner. So the purpose of a Chief Constable now, according to this garbage, is that he has to, first and foremost, work with the Police and Crime Commissioner, PCC for alphabet, to set the direction and objectives for operational policing in Lancashire in line with the priorities set out within the PCC's police and crime plan. So he has to set the direction and objectives of the Police and Crime Commissioner. Okay, are you getting that? So now he took you straight off realm, straight off law, and these gangs, because that's what they are now operating according to the Police and Crime Commissioner. Stakeholder committee. They're bumming you. Why? Because they're no hides. They're no hides. They're not anything. They're no religion that we understand. They're their own creation. And this new system they're setting up gives them all the power in the world over a person. But there's no room for anything in this new system outside a person. Everybody's classed as person. Are you starting to get this game? It says to provide dynamic, inspirational leadership to Lancashire Constabulary and to ensure that the Constabulary becomes and remains an outstanding police service. Becomes and remains. Well, if it's already, what does it have to become? Can you see the language they're using? They're actually telling you, but you're not seeing it. So I'll say that again. To provide dynamic, inspirational leadership to Lancashire Constabulary and to ensure that the Constabulary becomes and remains. Are you getting that wizardry there? An outstanding police service. To whom? Right, well, I'll tell you to whom. They're a service to the stakeholder committees, and that means every Masonic, Jesuit, Opus Dei, church-going shit there is. Because they're no longer anything to do with the West and its build. They're nothing to do with the original way, laws, customs that the West was formulated on. Eh? A service to whom? Not to you. I've had a guy on the phone to me who, this is quite some years ago, there were gypsies at his door with machetes. Okay? He was on the phone to the police and his mate were ringing me. So I'm listening to what's going on in this shenanigans live. Alright? So this is not hearsay. This is me telling you I witnessed. He was telling the police woman that there were gypsies trying to chop his door down with machetes. You could hear the banging and the shouting. She said, well, you'll just have to deal with yourself. We're not coming. Right? That's what she said to him. We're not coming. So he said, well, I'm going to have to protect myself. And he told her what weapon he had. And she agreed that he'd have to protect himself. So, this is the new service that this man, Chris Rowley, is going to force in as absolute when he comes in this spring. Yeah? So they're not, the service, it's about shifting service from the public, because it's a public body, it holds a public office of constable. It's an office, is the constable. And the warrant card proves male, female with you holds that office. That's the warrant card. And it's signed off by the chief constable. So they're still pretending to be constables, as I've said, but they're not. Everything's driving to shift into this no-hide system where you're going to be judged by AI. Now, vaccines. Do not kid yourself that these vaccinations are not tailored to you specifically. And that's going to be based on how valuable they think you're going to be to this new world that they're trying to set up. Okay? But even having said that, when you study the protocols, they're very clear in that even millions of people that believe that they're going to be in and move forward into this new world aren't. You've got to understand it from this perspective of deception. When people are being deceived, they have to have that carrot focused, their attention totally focused only to the carrot, long enough for the carrot to disappear and you get your head chopped off. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. If by definition of the fact that you need to be deceived, then from the mindset of the predator, they know that at some point you could turn at any point. So the carrot has to be good to prevent you from seeing that. That being the case, you might think you're in, because that's what they're showing you, but they know that you could turn at any time. You're going to serve your purpose, and then you're out. It's game over. Now, at the present time, we're talking game over, you're sacked, okay? And then abused by the huge police criminal intelligence network that's doing all the crime, all right? That's picked up all the real, on their own criminals, people that don't want to pay taxes. They're a rarity today because this grass system is so vast. You couldn't trust anybody today to be on point with what you're doing. You really can't. And that is already the situation that we have right now. To have overall responsibility for leading the constabulary, creating a vision and setting the direction, and a culture that builds upon public and organisational confidence and trust and enables the delivery of a professional, effective and efficient policing service. And the idea of that in their eyes isn't the idea you'd have. You want it going back to how it used to be, but they're talking in relation to furthering this nice limited system, which means you're not in any court or anything, it's all being done on the internet. And the judges are in Israel, the Sanhedrin, totally controlled by the Russian bloodlines, who are not Romanov, they are Anhalt, they are Prussian. Yeah, that's who they are. So it goes back to the Prussians, the bloodlines in Prussia, out of Prussia, fed over the centuries from the Holy See bloodlines. They've chosen their centres, their HQs, their breeding places, etc. And if you want to follow it outside the Holy See, then you look at Prussia is your perfect. Bavaria. This is where the nests were. And this is how they trap nations, because they're breeding into your family. And they can wait a generation and then pick up that offspring that's evil, because they're going to happen. It's happening in all your families. This is why they were obsessed with keeping the bloodlines pure in the past. Nothing to do with being hoity-toity. This was to prevent your line being opened up to these Nephilim-bred bloodlines. Because when you give birth to children, you bring in two spiritual lines together. Two houses that go way back. And once you conjoin, you open up then both houses to pull through offspring. That's what you're doing when you're having children. You see? These are concepts that have been lost. And they've been lost because religion doesn't teach it. Well, religion won't teach it, because it's not about teaching you the truth. It's about teaching you truths that would give them consistent control. Not only over you, but over your offspring, so they can continue it on. So it is all, the reason it went patriarchal was for very good reasons. The females succumbed and put themselves out of the trust in relation to setting up nations, which is why there's no queens in kingdoms. So where you're finding queens, you can see that's where the Nephilim have got their in. Catherine the Great, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth I. Can you see? Catherine de Medici, even though she was never a queen, she was way above any of the monarchs in her time. You're not seeing it as it should be seen, and this is why you're not seeing the game you need to be seeing when you're looking at these faces. Your chief constables, your inspectors that don't want to come out of the room. Your sergeants that look more like military boys, and then they've certainly not got the mental capacity you'd expect from a sergeant of police, a sergeant as a constable. They have to get on their phones. Why? Because they're going to Nice. What's Nice telling them? Are you getting it here? That's not how it works. Constable service law, the law should be known by every constable. Not only that, if a constable cannot recite the coronation oath, and he has to do it as a duty, how could he possibly know whether he's operating law or something other than? He couldn't possibly. And they don't even recognise that the oath is to the Queen, who borrows the sovereignty of the people, but the oath is she will uphold the Church of England, not the Church of Israel, not the Church of the Noahide. Okay? Which is what the Church of England is. Why? Because it's full of Freemasons. They're all Freemasons in it. They're the ones with the money putting it in, keeping them alive. You've got to see it like this. St James's Church is no different. The main man that funds that church is a Freemason. He's also a man that has all his pies in with the council because that's how he survives. Whose agenda do you think he's going to push? The Christian agenda, as he claims, or the agenda of the Freemasons? Yeah, draw your own conclusions, but it's there for you to see. So, this is basically where we're at with that. But it's very clear in this that he's the boss, but all responsibility lies with the position, the office of Chief Constable. So the corporate are dictating the terms, the liabilities are on the state, us, because it's the office holder of Chief Constable that takes the book. Are you seeing what I'm saying there? Do you get that? And that's the same that they're doing in everything. Stripping the profits to the private dictating, but all the liabilities and the costs are on the taxpayer. Because they've subverted our systems at control level. That's how enveloped our system is by this madness. Freemasonry, the Jesuits, Opus Dei, Knights of Columbia, Knights of Malta, all these secret societies are filled with unworthy men, unworthy females. That's what we've got going on here. And the power of that today is the baby boomer generation. Because they launched LSD on them back in the day. And I'm quite sure they put it in the water systems in as many places as they could. So I think everybody got a shot of that substance back in the day. And, I did the 1990s. I was in the music industry for a very long time. There's nothing anybody can tell me about illicit drugs. Nothing. There's nothing you can tell me about them, unless they're new ones. I've seen it all. I've taken it all. I've loved it all, enjoyed it all, and then stopped many, many years ago because it did its job. I saw what I needed to see. I experienced what I needed to experience. But when my eyes are looking into the world, that's only one form of insight I gain. I'm looking at lots of other players when I'm involved in anything. And that's where I learned how the occult works, who's operating it, how they operate it. And the rave scene was one of the greatest means of them to screw up the minds of the youth. And, I'd say it bettered the 60s. Now, not sure. But, I suppose the future will show whether that's the case or not. But, however, they've destroyed the generations through diverting us onto things that are not important so that we're not considering these issues, the word wizardry that they're using in the literature that's blinding you. Now, when it comes to the constabulary, Chris Rowley. It says, Chris Rowley, Mount St Cantab, joined Humberside Police after a challenging and varied career with West Yorkshire Police, which spanned some 25 years. For this guy, we're at West Yorkshire Police. That is the demonic police force outside of the Metropolitan in this country. And it had to be because they were importing all the occupation components into Bradford, which were then taken over by the Taliban after they'd started to annihilate Afghanistan. George Galloway, he oversaw that and kept it hidden because you were all focused to his absolutely superb rhetoric, and he was hitting all the issues classed as rebellion. Okay, so Palestine, etc., etc., etc. And he covered the takeover of Bradford by the Taliban. Now, why do I know that so? Well, because I've studied it, because I've studied George and his rhetoric. I've written about him many times. I asked him for a debate one time. He won't come anywhere near me. Now, I named him Lawrence of Bradford many, many years ago, and that stuck. But George Galloway covered the takeover of Bradford by the Taliban warriors, who killed the Muslim then drug dealers over a time and installed their own. And 8 years ago, they'd started to filter them out into even Accrington, and the local Muslim lads here were having serious trouble and problems with these guys, because these guys were 0 to 60 in a second, and they were killers. And that's been going on for a long time, and that's in West Yorkshire. That is West Yorkshire Police. So this guy, Chris Rowley, is a big player and part of that. Okay. So it says he had a varied career in West Yorkshire Police, which spanned some 25 years, predominantly focused around crime during his early years in the service. As a Detective Chief Inspector, he worked in many different roles across West Yorkshire until his promotion to District, where he successfully embedded a predictive policing model across the force. Can you see? So you can see where this guy's a no-hide. This is what this guy is. If he's not 32nd degree, he's on the path to picking that up. Aren't you, Chris, lad? No-hide. I'm going to fuck you. Wants your kids taken off you. Yeah, wants to starve you. Wants to stop you going into the supermarkets if you don't take the vaccine. That's the face of a man that's going to become a Dr. Mengele kind of character. Okay, maybe not chopping you up, but he's certainly going to chop up the culture, the nation, the people, the children, etc. All right. So he was into the predictive policing model, and he set it across the West Yorkshire force. He also conducted a full review of local policing in order to develop a resource allocation model based on the need and demand of communities. Stakeholder communities, people. You've got to get that in your mind. He's not talking about your community. So he developed an allocation model where to make sure that more of their efforts went where the stakeholder committee needed them the most. So that basically meant where the most people were that were getting on with their own lives and not interested in having the government tell them what to do, this guy stirred that up and fucked it. All right. So this guy's being bigged up as an expert for the no-hide. Not you, for the no-hide system. As Chief Superintendent, Chris merged 3 headquarters departments to form the Force Performance Improvement Unit, which included legal services, media and communications. Well, they've done that with the councils as well. They have the legal and democratic services, don't they? That's the body of council that's shitting all over you. And they're on like from anything from 70 to 150 grand a year, paying themselves, environmental people, all these little nitwits setting up these litter fines and all that stuff. That's your council executive, not your councillors. They tell your councillors what to do. Yeah? And that's what this guy's in and all about. So he's a perfect example of this shitty system that we don't want. Business change and performance in addition to a number of other units. So he's a change agent, this fella. Okay, this guy's a change. Just look at his face. I'll put a picture, just look at him. It oozes deception. I'm better than you. You're scum. And I've seen so much NLP, it's unbelievable. Yeah, that's the kind of guy. In fact, he might not have had NLP. You know, this guy looks to me like he loves the secret society stuff. He also worked as the head of crime for West Yorkshire Police and head of the regional organised crime unit for Yorkshire and Humber, incorporating the regional asset recovery team for the 7 forces of the North East. Regional asset recovery. So that's the enforcement of stealing your property. Yeah, your houses, your businesses, your cars. That's what that is. This guy's an expert in everything any sane and sensible man, male, female, would despise. Chris was appointed Chris was tasked to support the new Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police in 2016, where he held the role of TACC with portfolio responsibility for crime and operations. Chris was appointed as Deputy Chief Constable of Humberside Police on October 2017, where he now oversees a broad and challenging portfolio encompassing corporate development, professional standards, performance information management, that's nice, and security and strategic change, communication and legal services. Strategic change. This guy is going to amalgamate Lancashire, Yorkshire, Humberside. Yeah? Can you see? Can you see where this guy's going? Manchester. That's what this piece of work's been put in for. So now I can better understand the spoken feeling and word I got from that call, where you could very much tell they're not happy with this new guy coming in. All right. So that is a brief on Chris Rowley, the incoming new Chief Constable for Lancashire. Right, now, there's just a couple of things that I want to just get your minds to, because there's a couple of companies we need to be aware of, because we're looking into one called Lancashire Limited. Alright, now this is a very interesting company so far. There's a Chief Constable in it, changed her address to Lancashire headquarters in Hutton, so it's police involved. I've found addresses Wharton, so that's military intelligence at Wharton in St Anne's. Well, in Wharton. I worked in St Anne's many years ago for quite a number of months, weeks. And I saw patterns. I saw a lot of patterns, especially one flight out at 8 o'clock every morning, which I would suggest is off to America. Every morning, briefings. So briefings are coming in from America to Wharton. And it's not surprising that if you do go to Blackpool, you can get some of the audio tech being shoved into your head sometimes. From Wharton. It's why you're seeing UFOs. It's why David Boyle thought he was channeling Anu. Alright? But this is ancient stuff that I've experienced way back in the day. But it all fits in and ties in. So, Lancashire Limited. That's a company, if anybody out there wants to give me a bit of a lift with and start to investigate, it would be much appreciated. But one thing in particular that we really need to uproot, because this looks like a real shit, and it's called Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited. Right? Mr. D.R. Smith, OBE. Secretary, Miss L. Sales. His registered office, P.O. Box 78, County Old, Preston. Okay, auditors, MHA Moore and Smalley, Richard House, 9 Winkley Square. Now, Winkley Square is where the Crown's little shit pot is, that when I took the Queen to court, serviced that case and quashed it. Okay? So I know what I'm dealing with here, but it's a long time since I've looked into this. So if anybody out there can give me a lift here, and you can look into Lancashire Limited, and you'd have to, there's a story in it, and it's hidden in the company house files, believe me. I have to start work again now, so I'm less time on the actual research. And of course, my main issue at the moment is understanding this new grammar that I'm working with in relation to the arrest I had on the 31st December. So, Lancashire Limited and Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited, both found on Company's House, because Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited is a director, a person with significant power in Lancashire Limited. Okay, so I'm hoping that you guys out there might give me a bit of an heads up here. Whatever comes through, you can either email me or you can put it on comments under this video. But if you want me to use your word, you've sent an email, that'll make sure that I can mention your name, where it's come from, if you so choose. So let me know in your email whether you want to be public about it or you're just handing it on from behind the couch. Either way, it doesn't matter. So Lancashire Limited, Company's House, and Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited would be much appreciated for any help we can get in response to uprooting this system, because it does tie into NICE, etc. Okay. And with that, I'm going to shut my gob and hope you all have a good week. Okay? You take care. Bye-bye.